Countless cells work in a human body every day. Blood cells, erythrocytes, and leukocytes are especially important. They deliver oxygen to all organs and fight harmful microorganisms. If a person leads a healthy lifestyle, like Nico, his inner world looks bright and beautiful. And if the subject smokes, drinks, and stuffs a lot of junk food into himself, like Nico Shigeru's father, a branch of Nizhny Tagil is created in him in the worst years. Blood cells are born in the red bone marrow. This is a blooming castle where everyone is friendly and smiling. At least that's what it looks like in Nico's body. A compact erythrocyte appears, which is destined to become a very important cell in the girl's body. She, like other erythrocytes, was raised by Aunt Macrophage. One day, erythrocyte number 3803 encountered Streptococci. "What are you doing here?" He tried to destroy the girl, but a very young leukocyte with number 1146 came to her defense. It attacks the malicious cell, but does not harm it. Then an adult leukocyte appeared and finished off the Streptococcus. Having completed its training, the erythrocyte left the red bone marrow and went into the vast world to carry oxygen throughout the body and perform other important duties. However, it was not easy for her to work. She kept getting lost and had to carry a map of Nico's body with her. Meanwhile, Nico herself took care of her father, who did not monitor his health. She saw the results of his research and was horrified at how neglected he was. Nico's mother died, and since then she has had to watch what her father eats. After preparing him a healthy breakfast and making him promise to see a doctor, Nico ran off to study. When she went outside, she felt a sore throat. At this moment, the erythrocyte was wandering around in search of the exact cell into which it could deliver its cargo. And then pathogenic bacteria entered the body. They began to attack blood cells and kill them. Along with them, a molecule of Staphylococcus aureus appeared. Harmful cells attacked the erythrocyte, and it had to leave. But then a leukocyte appeared, which seemed vaguely familiar to her. And she was not mistaken, because it was the same leukocyte boy who tried to save her in childhood. Only now he has grown up and become the guardian of the body. What a delicious baby, I could eat it. He killed all the villains and helped Erythrocytus get back to work. At this point, the coordination service reported that pneumococcus was circulating in the vessels. A squad of T killers is sent to eliminate him. Seeing these brave guys, the leukocyte rushed in search of harmful bacteria. The red blood cell ran after him. The built-in leukocyte detector reports the presence of pneumococcus, but cannot find out where the enemy is hiding. When the red blood cells left, the white blood cells realized that the bacteria were sitting in their box. And at that moment, the girl was attacked by pneumococcus. Leukocyte had to save her again. They were in the bronchi, so he enclosed a pneumatic tube in an impenetrable sphere and began the process of sneezing. The bastard was expelled from his body with a rocket sneeze, and the blood cells were safe again. At that moment, Nico sneezed and continued on his way to school. On the way, she met a boy she knew who she really liked. They greeted each other, and so much adrenaline and other hormones were released in the girl's blood that a real carnival began. However, he stopped abruptly when Nico fell and hit his foot. She suffered a laceration, and her blood cells saw an explosion that destroyed the outer shell of her body. Some of them fell into the pit and went to die. Platelets flowed out to close the hole. Having thrown the balls into the hole, they threw leukocytes and red blood cells into it. And our couple was close again. They spent some time here while Nico's scab healed while her father ate dinner, cigarette in hand. He will, of course, eat what his daughter has prepared, but besides that he will stuff himself with a lot of stuff. And while Shigeru was filling his stomach before the next flight, the red blood cells, tired of such a life, worked tirelessly inside him. Shigeru's body cells were desperate for oxygen. His blood vessels were clogged, and his red blood cells were being consumed by the alcohol poured into him. One of them, who recently returned to duty, was even taken to the liver to be cleansed of the alcohol there. Then he saw his brothers die, and he didn't like it. He did not understand why he had to work all his life in an organism where you are not valued, when everyone faces the same end, death. The senior partner of red blood cells supported him and promised to help him no matter what. Meanwhile, Nico has made a date with a boy from school. One of her red blood cells was lost again. She encountered a Group B virus, and the molecules of this virus chased her. At the same time, the leukocyte taught the younger generation, and one of the boys especially tried. He wanted to be strong when he grew up and protect his body from harmful bacteria. By bringing the knife to the leukocyte, the adult leukocyte sensed the virus and went to destroy it. But killer T killers have already been sent to fight the virus. True, they, like the leukocytes, were also late. The virus has already begun to be destroyed by the NK cell. She was extremely strong and could kill all the villains single-handedly. However, when new hordes of the virus appeared, all three decided to act together. As he watched them fight over Nico's body, erythrocyte began to think that she was completely useless. After all, she just carries oxygen, but the leukocyte convinced her that this is a very important task, because without oxygen, everyone else will not be able to work. We all work with pride, and you are one of us. While Nico was on a date with her new boyfriend, her father drove the truck to work. In the process, he became very impatient. At that moment, in his rectum, there was a young red blood cell with its more experienced partner. They saw that the stool was tearing, but the sphincter muscles did not allow it to come out. The red blood cells ended up in this brown mess, and the baby almost flew out with the stool. But his partner saved him. When Shigeru reached the toilet and allowed himself, the experienced red blood cell still flew into the toilet, and the young colleague could not save him. For him, it was a tragedy. Natural selection occurred in Nico's body. The few leukocytes did not have the necessary characteristics to become guardians of health, and it was decided to get rid of them. One of these boys tried very hard to be a good guard. He was even praised for his white blood cell count of 1146. He didn't want to die, so he transformed and turned into a cancer cell. However, Shigeru followed Nico's advice and improved his health. But here's the problem. Now Nico herself was in danger. Because of this transformed white blood cell, she developed leukemia and required an emergency blood transfusion. Upon learning of this, Shigeru rushed to donate blood without hesitation. At this moment, the young red blood was still sad over the loss of his senior colleague. But he did not have to grieve for long. A giant needle pierced the sky, and he, along with other red blood cells, was sucked into it. From there, he was transferred into Nico's body. The situation here was unimportant. The poor red blood cells worked for many years in Shigeru's polluted body, and when he began to monitor his health, the blood cells were not allowed to enjoy them, and they were transferred to Nico's sick body. Please wait, give me a break. We don't have time for this. Here Shigeru's red blood cells met Nico's red blood cells and her friend's white blood cells. They went together to do their duty. White blood cells have teamed up with killer T cells and NK cells to fight leukemia. They encountered a mutated leukocyte. He will send his army to the red brain. If this happens, Nico will not be saved. New blood cells will no longer appear, which means the disease will win. A team of defenders goes to the castle of the red bone marrow. Here they see complete devastation and cannot understand what could cause such harm to the body. It turns out that doctors have started chemotherapy, and now rockets of chemicals are destroying cancer cells along with healthy ones. However, leukemia cells multiply and conquer more and more new territories. Killer T cells, NK cells, and white blood cells had a hard time fighting them off. Shigeru supported his daughter as best he could, but she was ready to give up. It was too hard for her to fight. Meanwhile, the leukocyte and its team, exhausted, destroyed the leukemia cells. They lacked oxygen, so their strength left them. What do red blood cells actually do? Now we will all die here. However, the brave red blood cell was already rushing towards them with a new portion of oxygen. Along the way, she met a colleague from Shigeru's body. He was in despair, but the red blood cells managed to cheer him up. At this point, the cancer cells kill the NK cell and killer T cell and then invade the control center. Nico became worse, and even the support of her father and boyfriend did not help. Shigeru met with the doctor again, and he said that only a bone marrow transplant could save Nika. If this is not done, she will die. But we still need to find a donor and carry out radiation therapy so that the donor cells are not rejected by the body. While Nika's father was discussing the details with the doctor, problems began with the red blood cells. Cancer cells attacked them, and macrophages had to intervene. She, too, could destroy the enemy, but she needed support and oxygen. Therefore, the red blood cells from Shigeru's body decided to stay and help her. Meanwhile, the lady found the damaged leukocyte and restored its strength with oxygen. At this point, radiation therapy began. He burned everything in his path, turning the once flourishing valley into a desert. The leukocyte and erythrocyte were able to escape. But then they were overtaken by a mutant who wanted to fight his former mentor. Why should I die? I won't allow this. The leukocytes and a friend to spread oxygen so that new blood cells were born, and he himself fought the mutant, but lost. To help Nika gain strength, her father and colleague came to the hospital and cheered her up. They told her how much they loved her and how important she was to them. It helped. The red blood cell arrived at the castle where she was born, but it was already empty. The mutant destroyed everyone. He was going to kill the red blood cells, but then the white blood cell appeared and finished him off. He still had the strength for the final blow, and he delivered it. Then he died. The red blood cell continued to carry oxygen, but eventually she too died. And after the bone marrow transplant, Nika's body began to recover. And a new leukocyte was born, the same as the previous one, and a real red blood cell, only with a different hair color. She found her ancestor's card and learned about her destiny. Niku's inner world has once again become a wonderful place to live. And a leukocyte and erythrocyte met again. And at that moment, allergenic cells exploded in Nick's body, and he immediately threw all his strength into fighting them. I will kill everyone. Every. Subtitle Editor A. Sinitskaya. Proofreader A. Egorova.